Hi, my name is Ryan Barker, and I have reviewed the case of Jeff and Becky S. versus Western Dubuque Community School District and Keystone AEA. To start off, a little backstory of student HS. That is the daughter of Jeff and Becky S. She was born with Down syndrome in 2004. She lives with her parents and three siblings in the Western Dubuque Community School District within the boundaries of Keystone Area Educational Agency, or AEA. From 2005, shortly after her birth, to 2007, she became eligible for early childhood special education. HS received occupational and speech therapy through the Early Access Program, which is a family service plan developed by the Keystone AEA. In 2007 to 2008, she attended a preschool ECSE program at Epworth Elementary. In 2008 to 2010, she was assigned to Puesta Early Childhood Center within the same district. And then in 2010 to 2011, which would represent her kindergarten year, she was reassigned to Drexel Elementary, which was a district's only school with life skills program. Focus on integration and para support. Before I get into that, I just want to say, I just wanted to point out that HS, her relationship with this school district was extensive. I mean, almost from her birth. So they knew each other very well. And so when I focus here on the IEP history, I focused in on her para support minutes as well as her general education minutes. Her first individualized education plan, or IEP, established when HS was almost 3 years old. In 2007 to 2008, participation in early childhood special ed curriculum with interaction with non-disabled peers during recess and free play, and 94% of the time she was removed from the general education. In 2008 to 2009, a specifically designed preschool program is what the program she used, and she was removed from the general education 80% of the time. A functional evaluation of needs for a paraprofessional was completed in 2008 for the purpose of safety, mobility, communication, basic functional skills, health, independent skills, and there were concerns in all of these areas, which is why they wanted the paraprofessional. In addition to the ECSE instruction, 330 minutes per day of additional assistance with an adult attendant or paraprofessional. In 2009 to 2010, it increased integration was possible, and the paraprofessional assistance increased to 400 minutes per day. In 2010 to 2011, which was her kindergarten year, she attended Drexel Elementary, and this would end up being the last full year in a public school. She had para support minutes of 375 minutes per day, and she was only removed from the general education 44% of the time. Then in 2011, 2012, she actually only attended the public school for 12 days before enrolling into a private Catholic school. The para support type remained unchanged, so the same purpose for the para, but all of a sudden her IEP para minutes dropped to 90 minutes per day, and there was no explanation for this reduction that was included in the IEP. And she was only in the general education 90 minutes per day, and out of the general education 360 minutes per day. That was justified as the general education not being able to give her the small group and individual teaching that she needs. Jeff and Becky S. enrolled her and siblings at the neighborhood Catholic school, which was an accredited non-public school within the Western Dubuque Public School District boundaries for the 2011-2012 school year. Although they didn't enroll her siblings, they did wait to see if they could meet her needs, and then that's where the communication began between the private school and public school. Jeff and Becky S. were not dissatisfied with the school or the 2011 IEP, but there were concerns that she was not progressing and felt a Catholic school would be more structured And so August 2011, Jeff and Becky S. met with the Neighborhood Catholic administration to discuss her limitations and how to accommodate her. And the parents provided the school with her 2010-2011 IEP to show her needs. Principal S of the Neighborhood Catholic contacted their AEA special education consultant and the superintendent and staff to discuss HS and the ability to provide services to her. The director of student services also was contacted to inquire about services HS received and if there could be a shared time arrangement to fund an associate for her. September 1st, Principal S sent emails to representatives of the West Dubuque and AEA informing them that HS's parents decided that they wanted HS to attend the neighborhood Catholic school full time. And so that is when things kind of changed. The sector coordinator for the AEA called State Department of Ed to seek clarification on what services could be provided to HS at an accredited non-public school. And basically through those conversations, Western Dubuque decided that as soon as she became officially enrolled into the neighborhood Catholic school, her IEP would be inactive. Speech therapy through AA would still be continued at the private school, but that would be it. Western Dubuque issued notice of an IEP meeting to be held on April 12, 2011, and Becky S. and the Catholic school admin, as well as Mary S. and Melissa O. were invited to attend, along with the reps of the school district and AEA. An amended IEP and prior written notice were prepared. The IEP removed all SPED services except for 120 minutes a month of speech language therapy or instruction, which was provided by the AEA. It was made clear, very clear, that Western Dubuque would not provide or fund a para or special instruction unless she returned to the public school setting. So here were the complaints from Jeff and Becky. They filed due process complaint on October 12, 2011 on behalf of their daughter, which was later amended to clarify family concerns. Some of the main concerns: Western Dubuque made a revision to her IEP without following the prior written notice requirements. And that was reduced paraprofessional minutes in 2011-2012 IEP from 375 to 90 minutes per day. They also had concerns about the removal time from general education in 2011 and 2012 IEP did not represent the least restrictive environment for her, which is a big factor. And it reduced general education from 54% of the day to only 90 minutes per day. And again, just the least restrictive environment, wanting her to be in the general education. Western Dubuque violated Iowa code by inactivating HS's IEP and refusing to provide special education services other than speech and language services after she enrolled in the non-public school. So those were the complaints from Becky and Jeff. The respondents, or the school district, they basically were kind of focused in on the fact that she enrolled in the neighborhood Catholic because they decided without having problems with the IEP to enroll her into the Catholic school. She would be eligible for special education, but only if she came back to the public site. The special design instruction and other LEA services on the current IEP will be considered inactive because of the enrollment of the student in an accredited non-public school, but may reactivate upon enrollment back into the public school. So basically saying that they would not provide any services at the non-public school, but if she did come back, they would reinstate those. Now, there was a reevaluation that all parties agreed to kind of create a new IEP. HS would be in the general education 69% of the day as she went through many, many tests and assessments. The removal is justified because HS needs intensified drill and feedback paired with the individual specialized instruction necessary to make progress, should be in a quiet environment with minimal distractions. Instruction of this nature was viewed as too distracting for HS and her peers, and so that was where the justification for her being removed from the general education as much as she is. Conclusion of the law and final decisions. Jeff and Becky were the prevailed in this case, and these were some of the laws that were brought up. The free and appropriate public education, or FAPE, in exchange for accepting federal money to assist in educating children with disabilities. State and local education agencies must agree to make FAPE available to all qualifying children in their jurisdiction. Local education agencies must develop an IEP for each qualifying child and must comply with the Act's procedural safeguards and must provide services to each child in the least restrictive environment appropriate for the child. The least restrictive environment, this means to the maximum extent appropriate, children with disabilities are educated with children who are not disabled, and special classes, separate schooling, or other removals of children with disabilities from the regular education environment only occur when the nature or severity of the disability is such that education is regular classes with the use of supplementary aids and services cannot be achieved satisfactorily. And that was a big part because of the testimony of the teachers at the Catholic school. They had an informal team that was put together and also made great gains for HS. IEPs and prior written notices. Parents of a child with the disability must be provided with prior written notice anytime the local education agency proposed or refused to initiate or change the identification, evaluation, or educational placement of the child, and the provisions of the free, appropriate public education to the child. So again, they amended her IEP or her minutes out of the classroom or with the para, and the family was not made aware of this. The Iowa Code 256.12 also played a big role in this case. The school district and the AA violated Iowa law by inactivating HS's IEP and simply refusing to provide special education services and supports. After enrolling in private school, they misinterpreted how that law worked based on what the family wanted. Personal reaction, the respondents failed to comply with the prior written notice requirements of the IDEA on March 2011 when revising HSS IEP and changing her educational placement for 2011 school year. Fact of the Board of Education of Downers Grove Grade School District versus Stephen L. was a case that was used to kind of determine this. A district thought that prior written notice was a moot point because of the enrollment at the neighborhood Catholic. However, they were wrong because of the complaint, and I agree with this decision. Family must always be in the discussions when going through the IEPs. Based on the information in the recording, the degree of removal from the general education environment included in the IEP did not represent the least restrictive environment. And again, as I stated before, there was an informal team that kind of helped HS through at the private school, and she was able to make great gains to her goals. The Iowa Code section 256.12 was violated, and the John T. versus and Robert T. versus Marion Independent Schools was cited. To the degree that this code section expands the duty of the school district and the AA to provide special education services, and once again they stopped when they were enrolled into the public school. The IEP team shall meet as soon as practicable to develop an appropriate IEP for HS next coming school year. And again, I agree. They definitely want to be a part of it. If that's where she's going to be attending, we want the best for her. Implications: ensure that IEP teams understand Iowa Code 256.12 and how it applies to IEP processes. Ensure that IEP teams always keep parents informed to all changes or amendments to their child's IEP. Positive communication with families, keep students' best interest at the heart of the conversation, and ensure that least restricted environment is a focus in the IEP development, as that was a big part of this case. Finally, some questions, just two questions that I had. I said, as an administrator, what resources are available to make sure we are following Iowa Code in reference to special education students? Again, it just seemed like there was some misinterpretations that cost Western Dubuque in this case. In the decisions they made. And then what processes can be implemented to ensure all members of an IEP team are informed about how to proceed when changes are made to an IEP. So just things to think about. And that was my case. Thank you.